Hello, my name is Patricia Sokolski, and the activity I'm about to share with you is the result of my participation in the Removing Barrier workshop series focused on explaining to us how to make OER and learning materials accessible to everyone in our classes. For this activity, I wanted to do something beyond technology, but I was not sure what to do and how to do it until I spoke with Michelle, who's organizing this showcase, and she suggested that I focus on my students' experiences and understanding of disability. And that was such a great idea. All I had to do was to select the course. So I selected the fundamentals of communication for two reasons. The first one is that it's the required course for the communication majors, and it's also a course that students take as an elective in their first year also at LaGuardia. Second, I noticed that in our textbook, the models for effective communication all assume able bodies. Although the authors do talk about inclusion, it's in reference to language and gender differences, not about body language and different abilities and bodies, even though disability studies is a subfield of communication where there's a lot of research and scholarship. So I thought I could engage my students in exploring disability using concepts from the chapter on language, nonverbal communication, and culture. So this is the first time I'm doing this, and I'm going to share my activity with you. So the activity fulfills two of the objectives of the fundamentals of communication course, which are to familiarize students with principles and concepts of verbal and nonverbal communication, and to reinforce the writing skills necessary to effectively apply concepts from communication studies to everyday lives. The rationale I explained, and for prior knowledge, the students, before they get to the activity, will have done some reading in the textbook and also some short activities to practice the concepts before applying them to the assignment. So what I chose are denotation and connotation, and we studied Amanda Gorman's poem. Environment and proxemics, which is the way natural and man-made environment shape communications, and at the same time influence the way we feel about ourselves in that environment. And for that, I used the vice presidents on Inauguration Day. And for co-cultures and high and low context, I selected a scene from Hidden Figures because it shows how the environment and the culture perpetuate racial discrimination and gender discrimination. And if the students can see it there, they will be able to apply it for disability. And then I give them two short videos, one on what is ableism, and the other one about, it's a TED Talk about a woman and her experience at a four-year institution. The written assignment itself asks students to answer 3 prompts, one on language, one on communication and culture, and one on nonverbal communication. For language, to select any language or dialect they're familiar with, and that's a nod to the language across the curriculum seminar I was in. And for that language, they'll define disability, including the origin, denotative, and connotative meaning of the word. And then they will list other words beside disability that are used in the language they chose. And they can explain how often these words are used and in what context, and why these words are or are not part of their vocabulary. For the communication and culture, they'll define the culture associated with the language or dialect they selected. and they'll define it as a high context or low context culture, and drawing from their knowledge and experience, not so much about what's in the textbook, but really their own experience. They can see if the culture itself influences people's understanding and attitudes toward persons with disabilities. And for the chapter on nonverbal communication, slightly different, they'll go in their field of study, what they're going to do for their careers and or their workplace. And I'm asking them to find the number or percentage of people with disabilities employed in their industry or workplace, and then drawing from their knowledge and or experience, explain how the environment and proxemics understood in communication, how these two at work or in a typical working space in their field accommodate or not people with disabilities. And I give them a few resources to look at, not to do research, but just if they need a little bit more context on the issue of disability. I posted the activity this morning, and I'll see what happens when students turn in their work by the end of the week. And I'll let you know what the results are. Thank you.